But the hill tribe people had no idea. They had no idea that it was even being made into heroin, or that junkies in New York City were injecting it into their arms. In '79, we thought we'd just love to go and live with this family for a few months and share their life, so we did it. I had a small group of people with me. We had burning pine wood torches and a couple of cheap old Chinese flashlights, and we weren't dressed for it. We climbed in deep inside the cave and climbed all over the place in places that now I wouldn't dare climb.
Cave Lodge lies in the mountains of northern Thailand, very close to the Burma border. Over more than 25 years, it has introduced adventurers and backpackers from all over the world to a beautiful and isolated area that is rapidly changing. Here they can find adventure in plenty and immerse themselves in the exotic local culture. The owner, John SPIES, has become an authority on the area, its colourful hill tribes, its archaeology, and above all, its limestone caves.
When we first started this place, we just had the main house up here, and then we started building a few really funky bamboo bungalows. Our first ones were just around this area around here. Then they sort of wanted bathrooms in their bungalows, so we've basically been building for about 27 years now. We've got maybe 20 huts spread out over the hillside looking over the river. Yeah, it's a fantastic spot, just upstream from the cave. I think I'll live here forever.
Cave Lodge sits above a river known locally as Nam Lang. 2 kilometres downstream, it flows into an impressive cave entrance. This cave, Tham Lod, now provides the local community with a lot of its income. But when John first ventured into it, few went inside. John immediately realised its potential as a tourist attraction. Now it has pathways, staircases and guides carrying kerosene lamps to light up the stalactites and stalagmites. It presently attracts several thousand visitors a year, who without discomfort or danger can experience this unfamiliar and impressive underground landscape. Bamboo rafts carry visitors along the magnificent underground stream passage, on a dark voyage through lofty ceilings hung with stalactites, where this river has flowed in darkness for thousands of years.
We got to the stage these days where there's well over 100 bamboo rafts that take tourists through the cave. There's well over 100 lantern guides, and it's a major income for our village. On busy days, our village will be taking in more than $10,000 a day.
A kilometre downstream, the river flows once more into daylight, where the colours outside appear even more intense after the period spent in darkness. John remembers his first trip into the cave.
I first came to Tham Lod, this cave here, in 1977. Back then there was dirt roads all the way from Chiang Mai out to here. It'd take a full day, actually more than a day, to get out here. And I was on a trek with Dew, and someone local on the little pickup truck that used to run between Pai and Mae Hong Son told us about this awesome cave way out off the highway, a couple of hours walk in. So we came out, and for me it was a life changer. I came to this place. There was no tourism. The locals used it for a little bit of fishing. It was very exciting. I felt like it was discovery. I had a small group of people with me. We had burning pine wood torches and a couple of cheap old Chinese flashlights, and we weren't dressed for it. We climbed in deep inside the cave and climbed all over the place in places that now I wouldn't dare climb. But finding Tham Lod and getting interested in the whole region, which is, we're in an area of highland karst, so there's a lot of disappearing streams, there's a lot of closed depressions, there's caves all over the place, and I was fascinated. Also, walking in and finding prehistoric coffins inside the cavern, it's up behind me here, that was, I thought was quite unbelievable. We climbed up into this third chamber and found these prehistoric hollowed out logs lying around on the floor of the cave, and I immediately assumed it was a burial of some sort.
A search of the floor revealed a tooth, fragments of bone and pieces of pottery, which seemed to confirm John's first instinct. The coffins would soon be shown to be over 1,000 years old, and the outside world knew nothing about them.
What I didn't realise back then was that for the next 35 years I'd be searching for more caves with coffins in them, and now I've visited around 90 caves that have similar burials. Some of them have lots of bones and other artefacts, others are pretty devoid of anything except the teak wood, which is often in remarkably good condition.
The air at this far end of the cave is filled with the rancid, sulphurous smell of guano, bird droppings which cover the rock. As John and his team returned to daylight at dusk on that first trip, they encountered a sight that has enthralled thousands of visitors since. As the light fades, thousands of swifts return to their roosts high up in the cave roof, where they will spend the night. In this remote place, John has led an exciting, rewarding, but sometimes dangerous life, and it all began with a chance meeting.
When I was 19, I was travelling around New Zealand. I dropped out of university. I thought that, I'd like to see the world, do something different with my life. And I was staying in the travellers, backpacker type places. And I met people who'd been on the overland route, the route between Asia and the UK, Australia and the UK basically. So I thought, that sounds fantastic, I'd love to do that trip. And I thought, well, I'll save up a bit more money. So I worked labouring jobs, worked on the railways in Queensland, was spraying noxious chemicals on plants and just any old crap work I could find. And when I had a few $1,000s, I jumped on a plane to Bali, which was, it wasn't the actual tropical paradise I'd been dreaming of.
John planned to travel up through Malaysia and then to spend some time in Thailand before he eventually continued his journey northward toward Europe.
Thailand was wonderful. The people were really nice. I was with a friend, travelling with a friend from Australia at that time, and we arrived down in Phuket. The beaches were pristine. We were sleeping on the beach. We went to Koh Samui before there was any bungalows, and it was just a really good time to be there. And I had this idea that I'd love to go up to the north to trek and see these hill tribe villages, walk around in the bush. I love walking in the bush. And so I extracted myself from Koh Samui before I sort of started floating around in the Gulf of Siam as a bit of flotsam, and made it up to Chiang Mai. And I think it was my second day in Chiang Mai. When I first came here in '77, there was a quiet little town. There was very little private transport or cars. There was just the red trucks running around, motorbikes. There were a few skyscrapers, and it was a very laid-back, pleasant place to live. Behind me is modern Chiang Mai condos and new government buildings and development. It epitomises what's happened to Chiang Mai over the last 30, 40 years. This is Warrot Market. This is one of the few places in Chiang Mai that is remain unchanged since I first come here in 1977. This is some of my favourite, the pork crackling and Northern Thai say-ua sausage. ดีครับขอไม่ได้มาเมินละขอข้าวกำสังขยาเนี่ยห่อหนึ่งนะฮะห่อเดียว
15ว่าสาว
อย่างฮะ
เอา15ว่าสาว
ซาวก็ได้ฮะ
ก็ได้เนาะ
ครับ She still remembers me from 33, 34 years ago when I was 22 years old and came and bought the exact same dish here off this exact same lady
กินเลยก่อน
ครับเดี๋ยวจะกินเลยฮะ ครับคุณนิจนักครับ Just inside the old part of the city here, this is THAI Gate on the left over here. And I was walking along this road in 1977. There was a little tour office right here that was renting bicycles. And I wanted to ride a bicycle out to a distant waterfall. So I walked in and there was this rather attractive girl and a girlfriend there, and I instantly was attracted to her. It was one of those coincidences that, you know, those life-changing things where if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't walked in and rented a bicycle, I never would have gone trekking with Dew for 7 years. I never would have set up the cave lodge. I would have been living somewhere else, and this is the spot, the place where my life changed.
Most of the trekking companies in Chiang Mai at that time were taking tourists to a limited number of well-known places. Ju was not only Chiang Mai's first female trekking guide, but one of the first to take them further afield, up into the hills among the local isolated hill tribe people, where few outsiders dared to venture. It was exactly what John was after.
When I first came to northern Thailand, the thing I really wanted to do was trek in the mountains, visit the exotic hill tribe people, and just walk back in time, basically. Cultures that had remained virtually unchanged for centuries. And I just happened to run into Dew, a very exotic young lady herself who was a trekking guide. And through my good fortune, she said she'd join me, and we went on a trek. And after that, I said to Dew, you know, you can run your own tours. You don't have to work for anybody else. And so we did it together for the next 7 years. The first trek I ever did with Dew, it's the first day of the trek. We're walking through a hill tribe village, and this mule caravan comes along. There's about 20 or 30 heavily armed soldiers, obviously not Thai, and the mules were carrying big bags, which we assume was heroin. It was the days of the Golden Triangle, that massive opium growing area, that big chunks of northern Thailand, Burma and Laos. It was the world's biggest producer of heroin back then. 70% of the world's opium was grown in the area, and the people who were growing it were the hill tribe people, and they were almost subsistence. They were smoking a lot of it. They were selling a bit of it, but there were so many of them growing it and getting onto the international market that the place became infamous. But the hill tribe people had no idea. They had no idea, but that it was even being made into heroin, or that, you know, junkies in New York City were injecting it into their arms, or people in the guest house we were staying in Chiang Mai were sticking it in bags up their backside and taking it back to inject in the West. When I first came to Chiang Mai in 1977, this is where I lived. Just across the road from me here is this rather ugly new pink building, which was where the old Riverside guest house was situated. Now, this guest house was really a front for a shooting gallery and dragon chasing link. It was run by the children of ex-Chinese Kuomintang soldiers, and they had a raging heroin trade going on there, selling basically to heroin addicts. And we didn't realize this when we first moved in there. We found out pretty soon afterwards, but for 7 years we lived in this place and ran our hill tribe trekking tours, Dew and I. It was a great place to run the tours. It was word of mouth. People would come in and we would tell the tourists where we wanted to go. We had about 8 different routes in different provinces around the place, and we just jump on local transport. It was one of these businesses where no investment. We spent nothing on the tours. When The tourists are signed up, they're going to go tomorrow. We get up early in the morning, go to the market, buy some food, pack our bags, jump on a local bus, go somewhere and start walking. And we didn't charge much. It was cheap. It was really cheap.
There was a ready market among the local backpackers eager for adventure. John's easygoing humour and Ju's local knowledge immediately proved a great combination. They were soon taking small groups up into the northern hills on jungle tracks where few visitors had ever trodden. The areas they were visiting were notorious as part of the Golden Triangle, where fields of opium poppies provided much of the world's supply of heroin.
It was a little bit of a dangerous time as well. There was one trek we're on when we were robbed at gunpoint, and we managed to bluff our way out of that. We said that if you guys actually hurt us or do anything to us, then our air force is going to come in and just bomb the shit out of your villages. That sort of, they were pretty naive hill tribe people. They had no idea, and they decided to leave us alone. But it was also extremely beautiful when particularly in the early mornings when you're walking by towering limestone crags and there's these poppy fields in full bloom with purple, white, red, scarlet flowers and dew on them, and a little bit of mist in the valley, and some exotically dressed hill tribe people scraping the opium sap off the mature bulbs. It was a fantastic scene. And you can't really see that anymore, and it's all history now. But I'm really happy that I was able to experience it at the time. In 1977, Dew and I trekked up to the Burmese border and met a very friendly family in a Black Lahu village, Ban Hui He, right on the border. It was a very remote area then. There was no roads. It was just walking paths between villages, and this village was very traditional. In '79, we thought we'd just love to go and live with this family for a few months and share their life. So we did it. We went up and we stayed with an old man, Igwe. He was an opium addict, and his extended family of about 20. We slept in a little bamboo hut next to the main house, and every day we'd get up early and go and collect water in bamboo tubes and chop firewood in ancient axes and walk about an hour and a half to their rice fields, and we were harvesting rice at that time.
Using the Leica camera that his mother had given him to record his travels, John now had a golden opportunity to photograph what he realised was a vanishing way of life. The village people had never seen their picture before. His natural talent for photography was soon apparent, and his collection of Kodachrome slides remains a valuable record of that time. The nearest hospital was 10 hours away, and there was no transport. These simple people asked little of life. They lived in respect and fear of the good and bad spirits that inhabited the forest that surrounds them. Symbols made from split bamboo were strung around the village on woven grass cords to keep the bad spirits away, while the good spirits were called upon to cure the sick. It was the honesty of these simple people that appealed to John.
We went back over the years many times and to stay with the family. We're still very close to them. The son, who was about 8 or 9 years old at the time, is now the village headman. Igwe, the old man, died many years ago, but I remember in the evenings I'd sit around and he'd be smoking opium into the early hours, and we'd talk about Lahu traditions, and he'd ask me questions about foreign countries, and he would have loved to have gone to a country. He'd never even been to Chiang Mai, he'd never been to a city, he'd never ridden in a car before in his life. Some of the people in the village thought we'd lived on the moon. They'd seen planes flying over. They had no idea. But very generous, hospitable people, shared everything with us. They had so little themselves, but we just felt very much at home. They gave us Lahu names. I was Janaku and Dew was Nakate, and they still know us now. We still see them regularly. We love the trekking, love the walking. Started to get a bit tired of the old babysitting, the traveller thing in these exotic cultures. That was hard work. You know, you're with them for 7 days, 10 days, something like that. They weren't always easy. I'd written an article about hill tribes living in this Mae Hong Son area for Australian Geo magazine, and this man was a caving expert, a speleologist. He had done a lot of caving in Australia, and he was very interested in the caves of Thailand. And so he wrote me a letter and said that it was looking at a 1 to 50,000 map, and there were disappearing streams out in this area. Did I know of any caves?
And in due course I got a letter from Chiang Mai, and John said, yes, I know this area well. I know quite a lot of caves up there. There's a lot of limestone. And my girlfriend runs trekking trips up there, so if you're interested in coming up, we could take you out and show you some of these.
Nam Lang, the river that travels through Tham Lod, flows south and then west for 15 kilometres before it again disappears underground at an impenetrable sink.
We'd already checked out where it went down these holes. There was no way we could get into them. And so the only hope to find this cave, and it had to be a major cave, because it disappeared underground for such a long distance, was to find where it came out again. In 1984 I came to this village here. It's called Ban Mesuya, with John Dunkley Dew and a friend Mark McPherson from Australia, and we were looking for the rising of the Nam Lang River. We expected to find a massive cave because the river flows through Tham Lod, which is an extremely large cave. And we got to this village, we spent the night here, and we talked to everyone we could ask in the village about where the Nam Lang came out. We knew it had to be in this area somewhere. We couldn't find it on a map. And they said they knew where it came out. It came out of a bunch of rocks. And there was no cave there. It just flowed out of the rocks. And we thought, well, that's a bit disappointing. And then late at night, we're about to go to bed, and a young man came in with a rifle. He was a hunter. He said he'd been out there shooting deer and mountain goat and things like that, and he'd seen the cave. He said if you climb it about another kilometre over these rocks to the cliff base, there's a hole big enough to hold about a dozen buses. So that's the one. And the next day, he took us. It took us about 2.5 hours to walk down there, and we got to the entrance of this cave, and it was bigger than we expected. 1984, when we come here for the first time with John Dunkley Dew and a friend Mark from Australia, we got to this enormous entrance chamber here, and we're very impressed. Our local informant was right. He said many buses could fit into this entrance. And down below me, right down the bottom here, the Nam Lang is flowing out of a giant slot. On the first trip into here, we went in about 2.5 kilometres, and we knew we needed a bigger expedition to explore these caves. Dunkley thought it was one of the biggest volume caves in the world. It had to be the most incredible formation in Thailand. More than 100 metres long, 15, 20 metres high, sparkling crystal. Lived 7 years in this guest house with, you know, this junkie management and heroin dealership and things. Things were starting to get pretty weird. You know, the owner was, I'd catch him sometimes walking around naked, clutching big bags of heroin, smoking some big smack pack joint, and you know, we just thought this is just way too much. You know, the police were raiding the place twice a day for a while, and it was totally bizarre. And we thought we'd just have to escape. We got to get out of this town. The town was changing. You know, the traffic congestion, the pollution, the tourism, whatever. We just need to get up into the hills where we felt comfortable, where we, you know, and we had our favourite place up in Tham Lod. We really wanted to make a break, get out into the hills where we loved, and do something different. We wanted a place to live and just start a new life, but that was where the adventure was really about to begin. We had no idea, but it was we're about to jump out of the frying pan into the fire.